Solomiia, but I'll come to that in just a moment. I want to get your word, first of all, on the current hostilities that are taking place in different places. The ceasefire that's been announced kicks in about half hour, but we've just got images of very heavy bombing taking place in the city of Mykolaiv as well as Kharkiv.
Yes. Hi. It's my pleasure to be here with you. But I want to say that no ceasefire were launched on set after negotiations. When we had the second meeting with the Russian delegation, the only one compromise was to make the humanitarian corridors for Mariupol and Volnovakha and other cities. But for the almost 3 days, no promises were done. And people yesterday who were ready to move out from Mariupol, one of the biggest city on the sea, on Azov Sea, they were bombed and were shelled, and the humanitarian corridor was actually out of any work. But what today we met with, that's Mykolaiv,
yes.
since early morning, was bombed. The tanks are somewhere on the suburbs on the sea. There also my colleague, my member of parliament, who used to be one of the best officers in Ukrainian army, is also there. They have a heavy fight now, and so that's again the reason to say no ceasefire was the compromise. Only humanitarian corridors, which Russians didn't accomplish as a promise.
Do you see this current ceasefire holding? Because, here in India, we do know that there are many Indian citizens, Solomiia, in Kharkiv as well as Sumy. So it is being seen that Indian pressure, Indian influence has also maybe forced the Russians to announce this specific ceasefire for these cities.
No, I want to remind you and to repeat you one more time. No ceasefires Russia promised to do. No, at all. The only one thing they was compromised from the last negotiations were humanitarian corridors only for a couple towns. And even though they didn't do their promise, the people were bombed and Russians used heavy shelling and heavy artillery. So no ceasefire to Kharkiv. And you saw how much damage and Kharkiv now is, and how they are shelling Kharkiv. Actually, the eighth day almost just 24/7. The same in Sumy. So we even though we are calling Russians on the negotiations, please give the ceasefire time. They do not do their promise even about the humanitarian corridors.
Solomiia, I spoke to the governor of Kharkiv yesterday, Mr. Ihor Terekov, and he says that the city has been completely destroyed. It's one of the cities, that has been announced for a ceasefire today, but Kharkiv is a ghost town right now. It's been almost completely destroyed. There's debris and rubble everywhere. We're seeing the same thing happening in Irpin. We're seeing it happening in Chernihiv, outskirts of Kyiv as well. What are you hearing from your networks about the condition of Ukraine's big cities?
So, first of all, it's not completely destroyed. No, yes, they bombed not even the critical infrastructure. They bombed the civilian universities, regional administration, city councils, and so on. But still, Kharkiv could wait, and they are on fire, but fighting. I cannot say that Kharkiv now is the ghost. Yes, it's very unusual scene in Kharkiv. But please, you have to understand that all Ukrainian cities are continue to fight, and no one from 24 regional centers are now occupied by Russians. That's the main point. And Kyiv is still standing with the president, with the prime minister, with the parliament, which continue to work in Kyiv. So yes, what we have now, Russians are bombing civilians and civilian parts of the cities. But you have to understand, we continue to fight and not going to just give up and to give this territory to Russians.
One final question to you I wanted to ask you was about Kyiv, Solomiia. Since yesterday, India Today has been personally reporting from places like Hostomel as well as Irpin, which are just, I think about 22 to 25 kilometers outside of Kyiv. They're part of the larger Kyiv area. These are heavy-duty strikes happening just on the outskirts of the Ukrainian capital. That military convoy isn't moving very fast, but it's not very far from Kyiv. The sense is that Kyiv will be attacked sooner or later and will come under siege. What is your reading of the situation with Kyiv?
Yes, you're quite right. Their main point, Russians' main point, is to take the Kyiv into the circle and just isolate from the whole country in order to make the same situation as it is in Mariupol or for example, in Kherson, just to block from all sides and to not to make Kyiv citizens to live normally or to help their armed forces as well. What we have now, they continue to have battles near on the Kyiv suburbans, but still armed forces are now strong enough to prevent them to isolate Kyiv from Ukraine, and that's why lots of people continue to stay in Kyiv. Lots of armed forces are now concentrated in Kyiv in order to continue their battles. But yes, their main point and target is to isolate Kyiv and is to press on President Zelensky's government to give up or to move out in order to put their pro-Russian government and pro-Russian president. That actually was the plan they announced a couple months ago, and what we heard from the different intelligence in Ukraine.
All right. Thanks very much, Solomiia, for joining us. We appreciate your word at this time. You know, I know things are moving rapidly. It's day 12 of these operations. I hear what you're saying, about the Russian ceasefire. I really hope that a ceasefire means a ceasefire, but I know what you mean, and let's see how that actually plays out. Appreciate your words and joining us here on India Today.